A quick reaction to Real Madrid versus Celta Vigo.
What did you make of it in the end, Jules?
Well, I mean, we predicted, we said 3-0 win with Xhaka. I think we got there. It was maybe not perfect football-wise in terms of the content of the game from a Real Madrid point of view. We mentioned the 2 own goals, the set-piece first goal as well. The Arda Guler is probably where the headlines are going to come, I would expect, from the Madrid newspapers tomorrow, because he's had such a tough season. I think there was a lot of hope when he arrived because of everything that he showed when he was in Turkey for such a young player. The technical ability, the flair, the creativity, all of that. And then the injuries really have ruined more or less his first season. And you saw in the celebrations how much, not just he meant to him, but all his teammates. Rudiger was shaking him, saying, yeah, finally you're there now after all those tough weeks of being injured and being on the sidelines, all of that. So I suspect the headlines will be a lot on Arda Guler, and rightly so. And as Xhaka said, it's a lovely, lovely goal. But overall, an easy evening for Real Madrid.
So as Jules said, the biggest headline from today's match is Arda Guler scored for Real Madrid. This is important because we know Arda is a very talented player. We see what he does in training. You don't see many players do that in training. However, despite what we see in training videos, he doesn't get enough game time. And today he was subbed in at 89th minute. And alongside with that, he had 4 minutes extra. So total 5 minutes he played. And he scored one beautiful goal. If you look at that goal, beautiful pass by Ceballos. A quick decision from Ceballos, I would say. And the Arda Guler, the control, the composure, and that finish with his weak foot. It's not his strong foot. With his right side. That's his weak foot. That's insane. The only takeaway from this goal is that Arda deserves more game time than Carlo is giving.
So that's definitely a youngster who will be taking the headlines. But what about 38-year-old Luka Modric? You mentioned it. His delivery on those corners. We saw the golazo against Sevilla as well, making the difference. And what a difference he can make for Carlo Ancelotti.
Absolutely. And what an option it is for Carlo Ancelotti to have. As you rotate players, give some a rest, and you're able to call on somebody like Luka Modric, not just a bit part player, but who steps into the role that's asked of him. Delivery from set pieces was absolutely key for Real Madrid today. While I stand by Celta Vigo did not defend those set pieces at all well, Luka Modric and his deliveries and certainly the physicality of Rudiger was the big difference. Carlo Ancelotti insists that Luka Modric is an important player in this squad, and you see why.
Today, the man of the match is easily Luka Modric, the oldest player on the pitch for Madrid. It was one of the dazzling performances by Luka. Like, it was vintage Luka that we would love to see. Well, I have told you numerous times, Luka is a player, he cannot play high, super intensity game, right? Super big match, he can't play because of his age. He doesn't have the physicality. But when it comes to a team like Celta Vigo, Luka is the perfect player to play because you don't have much pressure on him, so he can do what he wants to do. And today you saw the way he was doing some of the moves, like silky moves, some of the control. Oh my God, it's so fun to watch. And today Luka created 8 chances. That's insane.
We actually heard from Carlo Ancelotti saying he's never had a player as persecuted as Vinny Jr. Now, we showed you Vinny Jr.'s yellow card and his retaliation there against Mingueza for what was a professional foul, but we didn't get to show you all the time he is targeted throughout this game, Xhaka, which we see in nearly every game when it comes to...
Yeah, and that is where, and Carlo Ancelotti is absolutely right, and that is where you sympathize with Vinicius Jr. because he is targeted. Players are overly physical with Vinicius Jr. because he's so good, because he's so important to Real Madrid, and largely that's the only way that players feel they can stop Vinicius Jr. While you ask for referees to be more stern with offending players, you can't give anyone the out with the kind of petulant reactions that we saw for Vinicius Jr. to pick up the yellow card. But you can ask referees to be more mindful of how Vinicius Jr. is treated time and time again.
Yeah.
Well, why Vinny is targeted by opposition team, coaches or players is because he's the best player for us. So when a player who is so good with the ball, with his dribbling, we would expect that they'll have multiple players to mark him. They won't let him have any space and they'll try to make fouls. That's normal. I'd be rather shocked if they would not do that. But which is concerning to me today, when he pulled Vini's shirt, the reaction by Vinis, that's not acceptable. In football, yeah, shirt pulling is a foul, and the referee was ready to give him a yellow. So why Vini has to react that aggressively? I just don't get it. Listen, don't get me wrong. I am one of the biggest Vinicius fan in this world. And in fact, I am one of the few Madrid fans who has been defending him all the time, right? But when it comes to this kind of behavior, you saw against RBL and you saw today, and I have to say that I totally disagree with Carlo. What Carlo said in his last conference about Vini's attitude, I don't think that's acceptable. In fact, what Carlo should have done, sit down with Vini and talk to him how he has to behave better. Because in football, yes, some decisions will go against you. That doesn't mean you have to lose your composure.
Jules, it's a tough situation, isn't it? Because you can see both sides of the argument, and we've seen it today in just this match.
Absolutely, and we discussed it in the pre-match chat that we had as well, and I think Xhaka said, teams, especially when you play against teams like Celta, I think in a top of the table clash, it might not be as much the Mingueza foul, I don't think happens maybe in top teams, but anyway, they're going to provoke him because they know that he will react like we saw today and get a yellow, maybe a second yellow. There was a point in that second half where I thought that he might get a second yellow and get sent off at some point. So they will use that trick. Of course, it must be so hard for him to control himself, although I think he needs to learn how to not respond, how to not fall into that provocation, because it will happen more and more as he gets older and better and competes for the highest titles as well through seasons. So,
well, I have to agree with Jules said.
Yeah, and obviously that talent that Vini's got is what's the most important here. Just looking at his numbers since his return from injury, these are quite some numbers of a player stepping up, Xhaka.
And you understand why he's as targeted as he is, just because of these numbers. I think one of the things that, and Jules is right to liken him to Neymar or Messi, Vinicius Jr, and the difference between a Vinicius and a Jude Bellingham, let's say, is Vinicius runs at defenders, Jude Bellingham doesn't. And so he's the player, given his numbers, given his style, that the opposition often targets. You do feel for him, but while he's being targeted, maybe unfairly so, maybe far more than he should, you can't argue with his production. And as long as that continues, Carlo Ancelotti will be a happy man.
So the stats ESPN just showed, like Vini has 10 goals and 3 assists. I think that's pretty good stat, like almost 1 goal plus assist contribution per match. I think that's pretty good. So let's discuss about today's performance. Honestly, the game was not as exciting or high intensity match, which we can expect. We don't need to play a high intensity match against a team like Celta Vigo. In fact, sometimes it felt like it was a Sunday league game, because sometimes the way we are controlling, like Celta did not have anything to say, honestly. I don't know if Lunin had to save any shots, maybe 1 or 2 shots, that's it. Being said that despite we didn't play a super exciting match, we created a lot of chances. In fact, we have created 7 big chances. That's a lot. That's enormous, right? 7 big chances. And what is worse, we missed 5 of them. Today, we were creating chances. No matter how we are playing, we were creating chances. And the fact that we missed so many chances, that's what concerns me. Players like Vini, players like Rodrigo and Brahim, the chances they miss, to me, that's a little bit problematic for us. And if we would like to discuss our players' performance today, I think Vini was given man of the match. I think that's because he scored the first goal. But performance-wise, as I said, the man of the match should be given to Luka Modric. Today, I felt players like Brahim and Rodrigo, both of them were a little bit subdued. They were off. And our midfield was good today. Camavinga, Fede, and Luka Modric, this 3 combo, they did pretty well. I like the way Kama played today. Today, Kama tried to shoot from long distance a few times. That's not you see often. And many of the shots were actually pretty good. And then Fede, I can't complain about Fede's performance. Like one player I enjoy watching every game. Sometimes today, it felt sometimes when we were pressing, he was the only player who was pressing. Like he was pressing in the right side, he was pressing in the left side, he was pressing in the defense, everywhere. And when it comes to defense, like defending-wise, honestly, none of the defenders had to defend today. There's not much to do. However, one player we have to discuss, Lucas Vazquez. What a performance. Let me tell you this, whenever Real Madrid plays, most of the attacks or chance created from the left side, right? But today, it was from right side. And why? The Lord Vazquez. And tactically, the only complaint I have is that when we have done the substitution, it was too late. I think Joselu and Arda should be in earlier than they were. Anyway, let me know what did you think about our performance today in the comment section below.